The most dangerous moment with a narcissist is not when they're angry, attacking, or discarding you. It's when they suddenly go quiet and it feels like you never existed, because when a narcissist does this one thing, they are not coming back, not to explain, not to apologize, not even to hurt you again. And most people don't realize it until it's already over. If this resonates, if you felt that eerie silence and wondered why it hurt more than the chaos, pause for a moment, take a breath, and stay with this conversation, because understanding this moment is often the turning point where your healing finally begins. When they are done, the relationship ends, but the illusion shatters for you. And that's not weakness, that's awakening. When a narcissist is truly done with you, there is no explosion, no dramatic exit, no final argument that gives you clarity. That loud discard people expect is actually a sign of unfinished business. Rage, insults, blocking, smear campaigns, and sudden withdrawals are all emotional behaviors, and emotional behavior means attachment still exists. When they are genuinely finished, the shift is quieter and far more unsettling. It feels like the lights went out in a room you were still standing in. One moment you were central to their focus, and the next you are treated as if you were never significant at all. This quiet exit happens because the narcissist no longer sees a return on emotional investment. You are no longer provoking reactions they can feed on. You may have stopped engaging, stopped explaining, stopped defending yourself, or simply stopped supplying the emotional intensity they require. At that point, confrontation becomes inefficient, drama costs energy, and narcissists conserve energy when the payoff is gone. Silence is not maturity here, it is disengagement. What makes this especially destabilizing is that the narcissist does not announce this departure. There is no closure conversation because closure would require emotional acknowledgement. Instead, contact fades or stops abruptly. Messages go unanswered. Familiar patterns vanish. You are not told what changed because, from their perspective, nothing needs to be explained. They have already emotionally relocated. This is why people often feel more confused during this phase than during overt abuse. Your mind keeps scanning for meaning, for a final clue, for something to respond to. But there is nothing to push against. That absence creates self-doubt. You start questioning whether you imagined the connection, whether you mattered at all, whether you did something unforgivable. That confusion is not accidental. It is a byproduct of being discarded without narrative. The quiet exit also protects the narcissist's self-image, leaving loudly risks exposure, conflict, or accountability. Leaving silently allows them to preserve the fantasy that the relationship simply dissolved on its own. You are not worth explaining, and that is precisely the message being communicated, not through words, but through disappearance. Emotional detachment is far more final than rage, insults, or even a dramatic discard, because rage still contains connection. Anger is emotional engagement. Yelling, blaming, threatening, or punishing means the narcissist is still invested in your reaction. They still want to be seen, felt, feared, or validated. Even cruelty requires attention. When a narcissist is angry with you, you still matter in their internal world. You still occupy space. You still have the power to affect their emotional state, and that power is exactly what sustains the dynamic. Detachment is different. Detachment means you no longer register as emotionally relevant. Your pain does not activate them. Your silence does not provoke them. Your presence does not energize them. This is not growth or healing on their part. It is psychological withdrawal. They have shut down the emotional channel entirely because it no longer serves their needs. Where rage says, "You hurt me," or "You challenge my control," detachment says, "You are no longer worth emotional investment." This is why detachment feels colder and more destabilizing than abuse. Abuse gives your nervous system something to respond to. Detachment gives it nothing. The human brain is wired to seek resolution through interaction, even painful interaction. When that interaction disappears, the bond does not instantly dissolve. Instead, it lingers unanswered. You may replay conversations, search for meaning, or wait for a response that never comes. Meanwhile, the narcissist has already emotionally exited. Detachment also protects the narcissist's fragile self-image. Rage risks exposure. Arguments can reveal cracks. Detachment avoids accountability altogether. By disengaging emotionally, they avoid reflection, remorse, or repair. They do not have to admit wrongdoing if they simply stop caring. This allows them to move on without confronting the harm they caused, rewriting the relationship as insignificant rather than failed. For the person left behind, this emotional cutoff can feel like erasure, not because the relationship lacked meaning, but because it had meaning to only one side in a sustainable way. The silence communicates a brutal message, not that you were wrong, but that you are no longer necessary. And that realization often hurts more than any insult ever could. Indifference is the true ending because it signals the complete absence of emotional investment. Cruelty, manipulation, and even abandonment still carry emotional charge. They are active behaviors that require attention, intention, and engagement. Indifference requires none of that. When a narcissist becomes indifferent, you no longer serve a psychological function in their inner world. You are not someone to dominate, punish, impress, or extract emotion from. You are simply irrelevant. This is why indifference feels so dehumanizing. Human beings are wired to measure connection through emotional response. Even negative attention confirms existence. Indifference denies it. When a narcissist reaches this stage, they don't try to win arguments, defend their actions, or reshape your perception. They stop caring how you see them because your perception no longer matters. Your feelings, your confusion, and even your pain no longer register as meaningful stimuli. Indifference also explains the sudden emotional flatness people describe. There is no anger to respond to, no warmth to reach for, no tension to resolve. Communication, if it exists at all, becomes mechanical or non-existent. The warmth that once hooked you is gone, and the hostility that once terrified you is gone too. What remains is emotional emptiness. This is not peace, it is absence. For many survivors, this phase triggers a deeper grief than the abuse itself. Abuse allows you to believe the relationship still has emotional substance, even if it is toxic. Indifference forces you to confront that the emotional reciprocity you were fighting for never truly existed. The bond you felt was real to you, but it was conditional and replaceable to them. Indifference also serves a protective function for the narcissist. It prevents introspection. Caring, even negatively, could lead to guilt, shame, or responsibility. Indifference shuts those doors completely. By emotionally nullifying you, they can move forward without integrating the reality of what they did or how it affected you. This is why chasing explanations during this phase only deepens the wound. You are seeking meaning from someone who has already emotionally exited. The lack of response is the response. Indifference is not a phase to work through, it is the psychological endpoint. And recognizing that truth, as painful as it is, often marks the beginning of reclaiming your own emotional reality. Narcissists do not stop engaging because they suddenly gained insight or emotional maturity. They stop because they have secured replacement supply. This is one of the hardest truths to accept because it dismantles the hope that their disappearance means reflection, remorse, or growth. In reality, their emotional system is transactional. When one source stops producing admiration, validation, obedience, or emotional intensity, they redirect their attention elsewhere. The shift can appear abrupt, but internally it is often calculated and already underway. Replacement supply does not have to be better, healthier, or more compatible. It only has to be new. Novelty provides stimulation. A fresh person has not yet set boundaries, challenged the narrative, or seen behind the mask. That makes them efficient. Once that new source is in place, the old one becomes unnecessary. This is why the emotional cutoff feels so sudden. You are not being left because you failed. You are being left because you are no longer exploitable in the same way. This replacement explains the chilling calm that follows. There is no longing, no processing, no grief on their end. Emotional energy has already been reassigned. While you are still metabolizing the loss, replaying moments, and searching for meaning, they are mirroring someone new, telling a revised version of their story, and positioning themselves as unchanged and unaffected. The speed of this transition can feel like betrayal layered on top of abandonment. What makes this especially destabilizing is that narcissists rarely announce this shift. There is no honest admission of moving on. Instead, you may sense it through emotional absence, delayed responses, or sudden disinterest. If confronted, they may deny it or minimize it because transparency would expose the mechanics of their behavior. Acknowledging replacement supply would require them to confront their pattern, and patterns threaten their self-image. This is also why trying to compete or prove your worth at this stage is so damaging. You are no longer in a relational dynamic. You are in a supply economy you did not agree to. Their departure is not a verdict on your value or your replaceability as a human being. It is evidence of how they regulate themselves emotionally. Once the function you served is outsourced, the attachment dissolves without ceremony, leaving you to process an ending they already abandoned internally. Closure is never given when a narcissist is truly finished because closure requires recognition of impact, and recognition threatens their self-concept. To offer closure, they would have to acknowledge that something real occurred between you, that emotions were involved, and that their actions had consequences. That level of acknowledgement introduces accountability, and accountability destabilizes the carefully constructed narrative they live inside. So instead of ending things with clarity, they end them with absence. This lack of closure is not accidental or careless. It is protective. By refusing to explain, discuss, or process the ending, the narcissist maintains psychological control even in disengagement. You are left holding unanswered questions while they walk away unburdened. The imbalance continues, just in a quieter form. You are searching for meaning. They have already erased the need for it. People often misinterpret this silence as confusion or emotional overwhelm on the narcissist's part. In reality, it is avoidance. Conversations about endings invite reflection, and reflection invites shame. Rather than risk that internal discomfort, they opt out entirely. Messages go unanswered. Attempts to talk are ignored or met with vague, dismissive responses. The door is not slammed shut. It is left hanging open just enough to keep you suspended. This suspended state is deeply distressing because the human nervous system seeks resolution. You may replay interactions, rewrite texts in your head, or imagine one final conversation that will make everything make sense. But closure from a narcissist is a contradiction. They are invested in protecting themselves, not in helping you heal. Any explanation they might offer would be self-serving, distorted, or incomplete, and often more confusing than helpful. The absence of closure also allows them to rewrite the story privately. Without a final conversation, there is no shared ending, only their version and your questions. They can minimize the relationship, deny its importance, or recast themselves as the reasonable one who simply moved on. You are left without a narrative anchor, which can make the loss feel unreal and invalidating. Understanding that closure will not come from them is a painful but necessary shift. The silence is not a puzzle to solve, it is the conclusion. The clarity you are seeking cannot be extracted from someone who refuses to emotionally acknowledge what occurred. When you stop waiting for answers from them, you begin the slow process of generating your own meaning, grounded not in their absence, but in your reality. Your confusion is not a personal failure or a sign that you are weak. It is evidence of psychological whiplash created by a sudden emotional disappearance. When a narcissist is done, the ending does not follow normal relational rules. There is no gradual distancing, no honest conversation, no mutual understanding. Instead, the emotional connection collapses without explanation, leaving your mind trying to reconcile two incompatible realities: the intensity that once existed and the emptiness that followed. This confusion arises because the bond was built on inconsistency. Periods of attention, intimacy, or validation were followed by withdrawal, criticism, or distance. Your nervous system adapted to this unpredictability by staying alert, searching for patterns, and trying to anticipate their shifts. When the narcissist finally disengages completely, that system doesn't shut off. It keeps scanning for cues that are no longer coming. The silence becomes louder than any argument. Many people mistake this confusion for lingering attachment or a failure to move on. In truth, it is the residue of emotional conditioning. You were trained to respond, to repair, to self-correct in order to restore connection. When there is no longer anything to respond to, your brain fills in the gaps with self-doubt. You may wonder if you misread everything, if you imagined the closeness, or if you were somehow responsible for the abrupt ending. That questioning is not insight, it is disorientation. The narcissist, meanwhile, is not confused. Their clarity comes from emotional disengagement, not understanding. They did not process the ending, they exited it. That asymmetry is what creates the imbalance. One person is left trying to make sense of a story that ended without a final chapter, while the other has already replaced the book. This is why your confusion often peaks after contact stops, not before. The absence of stimulation removes the familiar chaos that once kept you focused outward. Without it, the mind turns inward, searching for coherence. But coherence cannot be found in a dynamic that was never built on emotional reciprocity. Recognizing that your confusion is a predictable response to an unnatural ending is crucial. It shifts the question from "what is wrong with me?" to "what happened to me?" That reframing is often the first step toward regaining psychological footing, because it places the confusion where it belongs, as a consequence of emotional abandonment, not a reflection of your worth or perception. The silence that follows is not calm, mutual space, or emotional peace. It is deliberate. When a narcissist goes silent after being done with you, that silence serves a function. It allows them to disengage without confrontation, avoid accountability, and maintain a sense of control without having to actively exert it. Silence becomes a strategy, not a reflection of inner stability. This strategic silence works because it shifts the emotional burden onto you.